Alright, hello and welcome everybody to this week's video, which is actually a video analysis. Now, Marc sent me this. He's from the US, from Massachusetts, and he's new to sculling, so he hasn't rowed for a long time. And before I even start to talk about the details in the video, I want to make something different. I'm going to talk about the fundamental key of this video right from the start. If you want to see the details, stick around. If that's all you wanted to know, the video is done for you. So I'm going to talk about the main problem that Marc has is the catch. I'm going to talk about the problem at the catch with the load distribution and how he digs too deep with his blades and why he does so and how to solve this issue. All right, now let's talk about the details. First up, congratulations, Marc. You haven't rowed too long, and the way you row looks very good. So you have rowed for 3 years, but you haven't been sculling for too long. This video, when this was recorded, which is a while back, showed your sculling ability, I think 3 weeks or a couple of weeks into sculling, which looks good. I think you're doing an excellent job. And of course, there are many issues. Two main issues. One I'm going to address specifically and what I'm just going to mention. The one I'm going to mention is the blade work. The blades should get off the water. And the reason might be technique. The reason might be technique and a boat setup that is too low. And to me, it looks like you just need to bring the gates up. The gates are the oar locks. So in case you're not familiar with that terminology, it's these little things right here where the oars are mounted. And I see that in many boats, these are simply mounted too low. Probably with the idea to have more stability, to have the blades closer to the water. But in my experience, the opposite is true. You know, the more space you have, the better or the easier it is to get clearance, get the blades off the water, and the less you need to worry about it. I'm sorry for the background noise. I'm recording this as usual in the Biro workshop. Guys are working full throttle because we need to ship out immediately, long waiting lists. So please bear with me. There will be a bit of background noise. Okay, now let's focus in this video exclusively on the catch, because this is, I know there are more issues, but this is the interesting one. And I know the resolution of the footage isn't prime. I think it's 480p, cropped down, recorded on the phone, sent over WhatsApp, Telegram, whatever. They crop it automatically. I get the original, which is half the original resolution. And for YouTube, it's not good. But hey, this is what Marc has, and I'm happy to help him. By the way, if you wonder what these things are right here and right there, if you wonder what this is and this right there, these are actually position lights. So if it gets dark, it's a good idea to show other people where you are. When I was in high school in the US, I didn't have them at the beginning because I wasn't aware of this. And on the Muskingum River, and Marietta College had an 8 going full throttle, and I was just about to go to the dock and they almost hit me. It was my fault because I didn't have lights on. I should have had them. Afterwards, I went to Walmart and got some. No ad for Walmart, I just had them. Now, talking about the technique issue, Marc, the problem here at the catch is that, of course, you lack balance and you lack the confidence to be stable here. But the problem here at the catch is that you rely so much on blades giving you stability that you dig very deep. In my opinion, you should not dig deep at the catch. What a catch should look like is that you should place the blade in the water, let it float, and then start to apply horizontal force only. Because vertical force is going to take a long time. It's a detour in terms of time and motion you have to do. So there are two main problems. First of all, it messes up your body motion. And secondly, it takes a lot of time before you can actually start to propel the boat. If you dig your blades deep, there's no acceleration of the boat going on. And this is why your boat stops every time at the catch. And it's not like this is a beginner's issue. It's an issue I've seen with advanced rowers and even elite rowers. It depends on what your style of rowing is. And in my opinion, it doesn't make sense. Let me show you what it does to the body position. So here at the catch, of course, you're unstable, so you see it with the tight shoulders here. It's a bit of a, will this work? Naturally, you know, you're not to blame, Marc. You're new to sculling, and I think you're doing an excellent job to reach out that far. That's really good. But the tight shoulders bring your center of gravity up. Where tension is, there's usually the center of gravity. It's not a direct proportional formula. But I found this to be true. The higher the tension, the center of tension, usually the more unstable the boat will be. So let's just follow this guideline. And Marc's center of tension is pretty high up. So it's around the shoulders and possibly even with the arms. Considering the fact that you are somewhat of a novice sculler, it's an excellent job, but that's the next step to take. And here at the catch, if we just watch it frame by frame, because you're so stiff, you rotate around the hip. At this stage of the drive, what you should do, and I'm going to hop on the wire later on to show you, but you should be relaxed enough to allow for a little stretch out in the shoulders. A little, not a lot. You should not dislocate your shoulders here, but you should be flexible enough to do this motion alone and then let the blade sit wherever it sits and then not interfere with handle height anymore. If you're too stiff here, you just don't feel when this is time because you're too stiff, you're too tight, and therefore it's pretty difficult to feel where the blade is. The result of this is the messed up body motion, but this does simply mean you wasted upper body pivot potential that you would actually use later on through the drive at the catch. And if it's wasted at the catch, you essentially do the lean back already with the early parts of the leg drive. I've pointed this out in a couple of videos why this is not a good idea. Essentially, you use, first of all, your momentum. The momentum should be used now. Now you should be in the original lean forward position you have at the catch. Now you would have to use the pivot, because now your legs run out of motion capacity, and if you then pivot backwards, you have more motion to add without bringing the shoulders too far down. The problem is, and I've said this, if you already heard this a couple of times, just skip forward a couple of seconds. If you have not, just stick around. The problem here is that the shoulder point here, in relation to the hip point, at that stage you can only lean down. So as the shoulder essentially rotates around the hip, there's only so much rotation angle you can have before the downward motion is significantly more than the backward motion. So that's a narrow gap, and you have to stay within this gap in order to stay efficient, in my opinion. The problem is, if you come not from that position which you have at the catch, but you already wasted half of what you've got over the first part of the leg drive because you pivot right with the catch to get the blades into the water because the shoulders are stiff. Again, okay, at the catch, shoulders stiff. If you catch this way, you're going to rotate up. So you lose half of your rotation angle. So essentially, this part here is gone. So all that's left is that one here, before you start to be in a significant downward motion with the shoulder. So this is about as much as you still have to lean back. And if this is all you've got, there's not much motion going on. The interesting part about the upper body pivot is that it's got a lot of momentum. At a point of time where the boat is already moving pretty quickly now at this stage, adding more force usually translates very well into a decent ratio of more speed, collect more speed. If you put in all the effort at the catch, there's not much speed gains you have because it takes a while before the boat gains momentum as well. So this is why it's good to dose the amount of energy you put in at the catch and try to transfer more of that towards the middle part of the drive. Now towards the finish, all you've got left is a little bit of pivot before you are in a downward motion. So this would be the max back pivot you should have, but of course you're not done with the drive. Your arms are still extended, so of course you have a bit of a downward lean. Now, as you don't want to do this, what you do is you simply stop the body motion. I've seen this with a lot of teams, all the way up to Olympic level. You will see this. If you watch the Olympics, you will find a couple athletes actually doing that. So pivoting too early, but stopping the motion at the finish in order not to have that downward motion towards the finish. And it's a quick fix for a problem, but it doesn't fix the original problem. So you don't get more speed just because you stopped the motion earlier. It's just a quick fix in order to make the boat not bounce so much. Can you follow me so far? I hope so. If not, just put it in the comments. I'm trying to go through the points a bit quicker than usual in order to keep the video length a bit shorter and save your time when you watch the video. Try to get the key, the essential information out there quickly. I know right now it's all about stabilizing the boat and trying to get into the habit of having a good stroke. I understand this. You want to create a muscle memory, a motion pattern. But essentially, you will gain stabilities. You will gain stability pretty soon. And if you're here at the catch, and the way your muscles are wired is with an early pivot, you will miss out on a lot of speed. So the motion will look harmonious, but it's not effective. The most effective part of the drive, in my opinion, is the legs to upper body transition. And you can also see this in the force curves. I'm charging the sensors of the old Biro prototype we have up there, just above my office. And in a couple of minutes, I'm going to walk up there and show you what it means in terms of force curves. Try to make it happen. I don't know if it works. I'm just trying my best. Good. So recap everything. Again, if you just joined the video now, I know there are way more issues than that. A lot more issues. And I would like to ask you kindly just point them out in the YouTube video comments. Just let me know. Or go to rowing.zone and let Marc know what you think he needs to do as well. And there's so many more issues. I'm not covering these intentionally. I want to focus on one key point in this video, and that's the catch. So on the way forward, the preparation is actually nice. Instead, yeah, well, you slide forward, but then pulling the boat, you don't do that. That's not the issue, not the topic right now. The topic is here at the catch. What I see as well, maybe you recognize this as well. You see the seat comes in pretty closely to the foot stretchers. So you try to get some length by shortening the space between your butt and the foot stretchers. And I see this with a lot of people, including myself. When I try to get some extra length, I try to slide forward more because I get the perception that, whoa, this is a long drive. But it's fake, it's not really. Essentially what I do is just to do, can I say this on YouTube? It's like a fertility motion. Yeah, I think that's child safe. So you adults, you understand what I mean. It's a motion that reminds me a bit of Michael Jackson on stage. But it's not effective because all you do is just move your seat back and forth, and on the way forward you should never move your seat. You should try to pull the boat underneath yourself, but just have the intention, because this makes your body move the right way. This may also be a reason why your position is messed up a little here at the catch. Not a lot, but just ever so slightly. Now is that early pivot. And with that early pivot, your blades go in way too deep. Way too deep. This is what the blade should actually look like when you enter the water. It just should be barely covered. So if my hand is the blade, and this is where the rail foil is now on top, this is where is the limit. And this is how deep it should sit, because all that propels the boat is a horizontal drive. It's not the vertical connection, because if you go deep, 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 the body is that's deceiving. It feels like resistance, but it's difficult to understand whether or not this is horizontal or vertical. But it's like sitting on a skateboard, and you know, when you sit on a skateboard and you try to propel yourself with the hands, put your hands on the floor and you try to push yourself off, okay? Now imagine you did a rowing stroke sitting on a skateboard. Now would it work if you just dug your hands deeper into the concrete? Besides the fact that it's technically not possible. After you have a certain adhesion to whatever you try to anchor to, it's about time to create vertical force. Now, hands flat on the concrete, you need a little more downforce. But blades, like a shovel in the water, how much downforce would you like to create? All it does is it goes deeper. But water has sufficient tension right underneath the surface in order to propel the boat. You understand what I mean? I hope so. All right, so let's move on the Biro. I'm gonna close the video on the Biro then as well. And I'm gonna try to show you what this means in terms of force curve difference. All right, let's recap the problem here. So the problem was towards the catch, shoulders become too stiff, arms become too stiff, and if you're here, it's very difficult to let go to do this. Ease off. Because at the catch, you should always be able to let go of the oar handles. And then what Marc does is stiff, and of course the first thing you do is you pivot up. If you pivot upwards, there's not a lot of horizontal force. And let me show you the difference. I'm gonna row the way it should be, which is this way, just the catch sequence. So you're pretty relaxed, not a lot of motion, and a quick pickup in force. All right, now the difference here is, you see how long it takes me to build up force. It may look like a plateau, but it's just a catch. Let's do a full stroke now, the way it should be. I hope I get this. I'm not used to this Biro, but the way it should be is about this way. somewhat of a plateau. All right, now what happens if you do this? You have a pretty early peak, but there's not much going on here. Especially if you lean back more. Now, this looks like a plateau, but what happens if you bring the power up? Now, let me adjust the power here. Yeah, you see the power. On the bottom, on the top right, there's the power. Good. Now I'm gonna row Marc style and the style that I think works better. So, that's Marc style. Now, same effort. I'm seriously not applying more power. I'm just using my body weight accentuated now. So it's a difference of 40 watts with the same level of work. And the reason for that is now I'm adding a motion, which is a vertical motion, so that's lost. And with this here, I'm wasting what I should be using here. If I do the pivot later, now that my legs are quarter slide, half slide, if I use them here, my legs are almost running out of motion. All the upper body effort I put in are easily transferred by my legs because they're such a strong angle now. And I extend the drive. I can use my upper body weight. And here's the catch. If I do this, how do I want to use the upper body weight? It's not here. This is not a good place to do this. So, secondly, if I rotate around the hip here, I even hit the limiter. I mean, look how high this is. This is about here. And this is pretty much where where Marc starts his drive. So I'm close to my throat. I could adjust it so it could go even higher, but usually the way you should find your ideal catch position, and the way I think works best to set up your boat, is to go to the catch in your boat and just find a height that is about a fist lower than your shoulder, because this is how you can transfer force the best. And at that position, the blade should float. And this is how you adjust the oar lock. This is at least how I like to do it. All right, ladies and gents, I hope this was helpful. Marc, still way to go. I mean, this is pretty awesome considering you haven't sculled too long, and it's not easy. You know, the single scull is a different animal. If you use to the 4, to the 8, that's all right, but the single scull, that's not easy. I wish you all the best. Thanks for sending the video. If you want to discuss this topic with me, go to rowing.zone. My username is @aram, and I'm very much looking forward to the feedback you can provide for Marc as well, and to the feedback that you can provide for my video. If you like it, share it, put a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. It just helps me to bring out more content. If you want to learn more about the rowing machine I'm using here, this is the biro we manufacture. So full disclosure, this is also my company. This is why, you know, I have everything available here. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. All the best. Bye-bye. Okay, könnt ihr wieder nachmachen.